It is Thursday, June 5th, 2025. This is a solo edition of Baseball Today. That is this man, Chris Rose. I am Chris Rose. Producer Dan, intern Sawyer along for the ride as well. Trevor Plouffe is getting ready for his Twins call against the, don't call them Sacramento A's. So he's got the day off. So what we're doing is, back by popular demand, it's ARA. Ask Rose anything. And I want to tip of the cap. I want to thank everybody who sent in hundreds of questions that intern Sawyer had to pile through and comb through just to get the best 11 that we could get on this very show, and we will answer them momentarily. I got to tell you, y'all did a great job, and I apologize. We're not going to be able to get to all of them. Some of them overlap, so if you say, well, you didn't answer it word for word, close enough, in the neighborhood. We'll probably try and do these once a month. Plouffe does a lot of games for the Twins, and so day games, he doesn't have time for us, which we understand. We get it. So I'll do this. If it goes well and you say 2 thumbs up, Rose, let's keep doing it, we will listen to you. It's your call. So leave that in the comments section. But a tip of the cap to everybody who really, really did some great work out there. We're going to start with some bad news for Plouffe's Minnesota Twins. Even though they keep rolling along and keep winning games over these last 3+ weeks, they're going to be without their ace of the staff, Pablo Lopez, done 2 to 3 months because he's got a grade 2 muscle strain up in his shoulder area. He went out to go pitch the 6th against the A's on Tuesday night. He went out there, tried to loosen up, threw 3 pitches, and he was done. He had to take the long stroll back behind the center field wall because they do play in a minor league ballpark. The big picture here is that the Twins are going to be without their best pitcher for quite some time. I mean, they're guessing 2 to 3 months, but this is a thing that cost Joe Ryan the rest of his 2024 season. The good news was that the injury didn't carry through to the offseason, and Joe Ryan has been really good here in 2025. So that is all well and good. But if the Twins are going to make a push to try and catch Detroit in the American League Central and maybe more likely get one of those wild card spots, they're going to have to figure out a way to replace a guy who was en route to the All-Star game for the second time in the last 3 years. So it's actually been their pitching that has kept them in this thing. Their lineup has just been so-so for much of the year. It has gotten healthier. It has gotten more productive, and maybe they'll be able to carry it. But now the question is, do the Twins have to go get a replacement via trade? Do they have to go do that? It's a possibility. We'll see. One of baseball's really good guys, Pablo Lopez, though, down for the next 2 to 3 months, as we certainly wish him well. Do not call the Washington Nationals if you're looking for starting pitching help, if you're asking for MacKenzie Gore. Because guess what? He ain't going anywhere except maybe Atlanta, Georgia for the All-Star game this year.
Oh. Got him again. Oh. Back to the curveball. And MacKenzie Gore now with 7 punchies in 6 scoreless innings. The Nationals ace leading Major League Baseball in strikeouts. The strikeouts are going up. The ERA is plummeting.
Yeah, under 3 at this point on the year, I believe. What do we say? 3.16? That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, I might be wrong, Dan might be wrong, but we'll fix that thing regardless. The point is that MacKenzie Gore is awesome. Now the question is he an ace? I get real finicky with this terminology because there aren't 30 aces. Not every team has got an ace. What I would say is MacKenzie Gore is on the cusp of being one. And I think that if he rolls out the entire season pitching like this, that he will go into 2026 and the Washington Nationals will proudly say that we have our ace moving forward. Part of the equation for me, he's got the strikeouts, right? It's over 12 Ks per 9. He's awesome. He leads the league in it. Here we go, Dan. Way to roll that out quickly. Good. It's 5 2/3 innings per start this year, if I'm doing the math right. And I believe I am. What do you have? 75 1/3, and he's made 13 starts. Is that 5? 65. Is that 6 innings? 6 innings per start? Yeah, I guess it is, huh? No, not quite. 5 2/3. Yeah, we're great on our numbers so far tonight. We're just crushing it. So he's only recorded 2 outs in the 7th inning all year. That's the area where I would be a little bit hesitant with calling him an ace. I need that. I need not only your ability to strike out guys, and that's key because I don't know if you saw the game on Wednesday, but Cubs go hit, hit, hit in the first inning, and then I don't think you give him a hit the rest of the night. And that means he can get himself out of trouble and keep throwing zeros on the scoreboard. So you can check that box. But you also need to give me length. Every 5 days, you need to be able to tell the bullpen, I'll take care of you. And I know that this isn't the game that we live in right now, but it is important when I look at a ton of it. I mean, Paul Skeens, we know he's an ace, but the number of times now that he is pitching into the 7th and the 8th inning, that's when you become a stud and you just tell the guys in the bullpen, hey, maybe if we need our closer tonight, we'll call on you. Rest of the guys, I got you. I got you. And once again, I'm not blaming this on MacKenzie Gore. It's part of his development, but he is 26 years old now. He's not a kid. He's not 23. We shouldn't baby him anymore. Let's try and let him get deeper in games. Sometimes because of the high strikeout numbers and the pitch count going up, it doesn't allow. So I understand that. But that's, to me, the last piece of the puzzle. And I'm confident he can get there perhaps in the second half of the year. But I'm excited to see him in Atlanta. I think he will be at the All-Star game. He is a fun kid to watch. And he's part of a bright-ish future in Washington. They've got some studs all over the place, right? We talked a lot about James Wood. C.J. Abrams is a good player. And this kid on the mound obviously has done it. Need a few more, and maybe we'll start to talk about them getting back in the wild card chase one of these days. But still a lot of fun. He's pitched very well. Obviously took it to the Cubs. They're not just any old team. They're one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in baseball. Took care of the Dodgers earlier this year. Mariners are top 10 to 12 offense. Pitched very well against them. So there you go. MacKenzie Gore, keep pushing, bro. We're going to get you into that ace status soon, but not quite there yet is the way I would say it. Red Sox, they came up big on Wednesday thanks to the shortest walk-off homer ever.
And a fly down the right field line. That one heading toward the stands. And that's going to be a fair ball. And that ball is gone. It's out of here. He tucked it in there. And he walks it off. Cedar Rafaela with a home run.
308-foot walk-off just snuck inside the pesky pole. Now, raise your hand if you have never been to Fenway Park. I have, so I'll put my hand out. The first thing I did when I took my family there, and I had been there a couple times already, we walked right past the pesky pole. I was like, you've got to see this thing. It's insane because you don't notice it when you're just seeing it on TV, but there's a ton of people that have signed the pesky pole. Like you would think, oh, it's this amazing baseball artifact. It's got all these scribbles on it and there's Sharpies. And I don't know if they repaint it every year. I doubt it. But when I was there showing my kids what that was all about, that was the first time I was like, damn, that is crazy. But then you have to go take a minute to just stand by the pesky pole and look at the way you're looking at home plate from there. And you're like, what in the hell who thought of this? It is so bizarre. But it is one of the beautiful aspects of the most interesting stadium, I would say, in sports history. It just really is because all of the nooks and crannies and the different angles and yeah, there you go. That away there, Dan Rourke. Way to crush it. I love it. For the audio-only audience, we are showing the pesky pole, tight shot of it with all these signatures on there. And I'm just happy that there isn't anybody that got so drunk that it looked like a page out of Jonah Hill's journal in the movie Superbad. That's all I could say is thank God there aren't any of those sketches on that thing. God, that would have been horrible. So that's a good look. That was the fun part. The day between the Red Sox and Angels, before the walk-off and a crazy 11-9 finish, really, really weird. Because I don't know if all of you were on Twitter before the game started, but we said, well, the Angels and the Red Sox are fighting before the game even started. I was like, what? So we did get some late video. That's Tyler Anderson, the left-hander for the Angels, who had pitched earlier in the series. And he went over and he confronted Red Sox first base coach Jose Flores, who was down on the field getting ready to do some drills. And there was a report from Mike Rodriguez who said, according to his sources, that Anderson was pissed off that Flores was stealing signs and then relaying them. And Barry Enright, who is the pitching coach for the Angels, got into it. Guys, if we're going to go, let's go. Like, let's do it. Eventually, Alex Cora came out with his mochaccino or whatever the hell he's drinking and talked to Tyler Anderson about things and, tried to cool things down because Alex Cora does a pretty good job of that, keeping a level head. I know that pisses off some people in Boston. They want to see a little more fire out of him. But I thought that was probably the right stance. I got to tell you, I will tell you this. I don't mind a good fight. It bothers the hell out of me when coaches get into fights. Not managers, but the coaches. Like, we shouldn't even really know your names. We should know maybe the pitching coach and maybe the hitting coach. But we don't want to know like first and third guys very often. You don't really want to know your third base coach because very rarely do you ever say as a fan, God, my third base coach is the best. You're only pissed off when they send him home. And you're like, what? What? You're a moron. With our best hitter coming up next and only one out, you're sending him home? You're an idiot. And then first base coach, we always go with the first base coaches. Well, you really, we can't trust you over third, right? We can't trust you to be the hitting coach. You're not a pitching coach. So what are you? You're like the guy that collects equipment sometimes. That's what some people. So all I'm saying is that coaches, I'm not here ripping on first. I guess I am. That was shame on me because I do love first base coaches. But at the same time, just stay out of it. If a guy's going to yell at you, you don't have to yell back. Just be like, okay, bro, I got it. And I don't think that if this is fact, it doesn't sound like Jose Flores did anything wrong. Because last time I checked, stealing signs is part of the game. Now, if we're using technology or anything else, that's not okay. But if we're using our eyes and we're paying attention, I always thought that was fair game. And I thought it was always incumbent on the pitcher and the catcher and the defensive side of things to figure out why the hell this is happening. I could be wrong. All right. We got more stuff still to come. I ran right through a stop sign, speaking of third base coaches, because I wanted to tell you about something else. You got no time to cook? No problem. Our friends at Huel, that is today's sponsor, have got you covered. That is spelled Huel, and their Black Edition ready to drink it is a total game changer. Now, for me, mornings are chaos, all right? I got the show. I got to get out the door in minutes. I don't have time to whip up a balanced meal. Guess what? Grab one of these bad boys. Huel Black Edition, that comes in handy. It's my go-to. Keeps me full, keeps me energized, keeps me focused, so I can tackle whatever the day throws at me. It is a complete meal in a bottle. This thing, it will fill you up with good stuff, too. 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals. It's high in fiber, low in sugar, so you feel full, you feel focused, you feel ready for your day. There's no prep, there's no cleanup. Just grab and go. Start saving time and money without compromising your nutrition today with this exclusive offer for our new customers, 15% using the exclusive code TODAY. That is 15% for new customers using the exclusive code TODAY at Huel.com. Please see our description for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled. All right, one more thing I wanted to hit on before we get to Ask Rose Anything. And this was just something fun. Phillies and Blue Jays, it feels like certainly the relievers, right? Hoffman ended up winning the game, and the loser was Jordan Romano. The first thing I actually dug about this was that when Romano came into the game, and this is in Toronto, standing ovation, great signs. Guy is from Canada, pitched for the Blue Jays, had some good years up there, struggled at times in the playoffs a couple of years ago against Seattle. He was part of that bullpen implosion, if memory serves me right. But the fans were super classy. It was awesome to see. I love that. I'm kind of a sucker for that sort of stuff. And then his old battery mate, Alejandro Kirk, walks into the batter's box. 1-1 game. This is it. Kirk thought he clicked him, too. And he just missed it. And without that little extra, whatever it is, 3 feet of wall, it probably is a homer. As it is, ends up game-winning single. And he gets him. And I always sit there and I think, what is it like when catchers are facing their former closers? Like I'm not just talking pitchers. I think closers specifically. makes it super interesting because you have to sit here and guide a guy through the most stressful situation in the game. Like, it's the only thing standing between you and a win is getting 3 outs. And it's a 1-run game, and you got 3, 4, 5 in the other team's order. So you got to play catcher, but part psychologist. Make sure they got their good shit. Make sure the guys who have been sitting down in that bullpen for hours and just jittery, and they probably got about 6 cups of coffee in them by then, that they're ready to go and they're focused. And so I'm just thinking, what was Alejandro Kirk thinking when he got in the batter's box? Was he like, I know exactly how he's going to work me? Or is he thinking, well, Jordan Romano knows that I know exactly how he wants to work me. So is he going to go opposite of me? Like, that's the fascinating stuff, is the cat and mouse. But I loved it the way that Toronto welcomed back one of their native sons and a former Blue Jay. And I just loved it that it came down to Kirk against his former closer. I just thought that was a neat little thing. That's all. You want to play the game? Let's play the game. Let's do it. I am fired up. I loved doing this about a month ago or so when Plouffe couldn't be here on the show. Ask Rose anything. Our intern Sawyer, we might have to give him a day off just after looking through all of these and trying to find the best questions so that we could have the most fun today. Let's get it going. Dan, what's our first question? See if we're all on the same page. This one from Roy. Of all active shortstops, whose career would you want up until now? Woo, that is loaded, right? Because you could go Lindor because you're always smiley. I just saw him at the ballpark, by the way. Caught up with him for the first time in a few years. That was nice. He actually asked how my sons were doing. How nice was that? Because like for years, I would take him to go see the Guardians down on the field, then Indians. And Lindor was so nice. He would take a picture of them every year. And Millar would rip on me and be like, Rose, you got one picture. That's enough. You know, I was like, but the boys love taking pictures. He's their favorite. So that was nice. But Lindor's not the answer here. I'm going to go with one of two. And I think I'm having a hard time narrowing it down because they're both World Series champions. They both signed contracts for more than $300 million. So I'm going to go Corey Seager and Trey Turner. I think part of the Seager thing here is that, number one, is there anybody that dislikes Corey Seager? Like, he seems so likable and easygoing. Do we wish he was a little healthier? Yes, because he feels like a Hall of Fame talent that could do anything. And when the lights are on, bro, he is in. He is locked in and ready to go. So I kind of dig that. Trey Turner, I was a horrible athlete. I've told y'all this before. But one thing I really regret about not being a good athlete was not knowing what it was like to run fast. I love watching people run. That's why the triple is my favorite play in our sport of baseball. I love watching guys cut the corner, turn on, or go first to home on a ball in the gap. I just dig that. And so when Trey Turner started doing the super cool slide a few years ago, I was like, oh, just once, switch bodies with me just for like a week so I could see what it was like. And he's also got great hair. I got bad palo working these days. So Trey Turner, it's one of those two. That's what I would go with. And you can leave comments on this. You know, you all should answer these questions along with me. But don't just say a name. Give me a name and a reason why. And I might go, hey, I mean, I'll fire back at you guys in the comments section, both good and bad. If I think you're wrong when you question something, I'll come back and say, well, hold on here. Or if you're right, I'll say, hey, that's a good point, or that's a good name. That's a great, I love that. I love doing that. So let me know. I don't think I'm leaving anybody else out, but I suppose it's possible. Correa too. I love the way he plays defense. I guess it's time to move on. Dan just put the next graphic up. This from Jewel Runner. What is your favorite sports or baseball movie? Do you think we need more baseball related media? Well, I'm going to get to the next part. If we want more baseball related media, go for it. I mean, listen, there's younger and younger people getting involved in this. I always encourage them to, go find what your passion's all about and go for it. Like, let's give people more opportunity to enjoy the sport. And if you put a different slant on something, I would never tell a person, no, we're good. We're good. Like, no, let's stop. Because that's not fair. I'm not a dream crusher. There are plenty of people in this business who go to college classes, or when they talk to younger people, they're like, you don't want to get in this business. And I say, that's bullshit. It's a wonderful business. It's what you make out of it. So I wanted to start with that part. I also think that they're talking about, do we need shows like Winning Time, Friday Night Lights? I don't know. Those get tricky. Those get tricky because the good ones, which are few and far between, okay, those are hard to hit on, because the bad ones, you're like, ugh, I don't want to watch that. But favorite sports or baseball movie? I'll break it into two parts. Baseball movie is Major League, just because it was near and dear to my heart. I told you this before, that when it came out in the spring of '89, I was a senior in high school. The then Indians had never finished higher than fourth in their division. I'll repeat that, never finished higher than fourth in my lifetime in the division. So I was 18 years old and hadn't sniffed even third place at that point. So when you have that movie in Cleveland, Ohio, and it feels like a playoff game, we were all standing up and cheering. It wasn't like, hey, anybody want extra popcorn? We were all like locked in. We're like, why is Jake Taylor bunting? And then we're like, yes, that's freaking awesome. I love that movie. We were watching it like fans. So that's why it's my favorite movie for that. Best sports movie, though. Slapshot, starring Paul Newman. It's about this hockey team, the Charlestown Chiefs. And he's Reggie Dunlop. He's now the player coach. He's a washed up player that can't get the game out of his system. And I think it was released in 1977. I was like 6 or 7 when I saw this, and it appalls me. There's no way my parents knew what I was watching. There's no way, because if they had signed off on that, I would ask them today if they were alive. What the hell, Mom, Dad, I love you, but what were you thinking? There's no way a 6 or 7-year-old should ever have watched this movie. Well, my brother had to explain to me all of the best parts. In fact, I don't think I even understand them all today, and I'm in my 50s. But if you are of age, this is not a movie for anybody under like 16. I've got to be honest with you. And I was watching it at 6 or 7. But please go find it somewhere. The humor still works, I think. There are some lines in it that are certifiably insane. And one of my brothers, when he was in college, he and his buddies went dressed as the Hanson brothers. If you've seen the movie, you'll laugh. That was their sense of humor. He went to Yale. That's how they laugh. So there you go. Great question, though. Thank you, Jewel Runner. Excellent work. All right, we're going to continue on. Rivas, could Nico Horner have the best 0 home run season ever? I love watching the guy play. He's got a 2-2 WAR. He is awesome. He's a smart player. He's a gritty defender. He'll get you some clutch hits. I mean, I think he's hitting close to 300. I think he's got 15 doubles. Like, that's good. I'm sure it bothers the hell out of him that he has not left the yard. And I guarantee you that his boys are killing him. And when it does happen this year, because it's going to happen, he's going to get the silent treatment. Just mark my words on this. But he doesn't want to be one of those guys that has had a 0 home run season. I went back and looked, and like Ozzie Smith in '87, when he got the Cardinals to the World Series, where they lost in 7 games to the Twins, had a 0 home run season. My buddy Harold Reynolds had a 0 home run season in '89. But if we're really looking for the best 0 home run season of my lifetime, probably, I'm going to go with Juan Pierre of the 2007 Los Angeles Dodgers. It's a year he collected almost 200 hits. He had I think he had over 60 steals, if I'm not mistaken. Juan Pierre could play, man. He's most famous for being a part of that Marlins 03 team. You know, he and Dontrell and Miguel Cabrera. Mikey Lowell was on that team. Josh Beckett, Conine, Pudge. You know, it was a bunch of good players. But Juan Pierre, and it was so funny because he's so fast, but it looked like he should be wearing a uniform from like the 50s. It looked baggy on him all the time. I was like, bro, don't you want to be the sleek model? And that's not how it fit. But Juan Pierre, probably 2007. Nico Horner, you keep doing your work, though. And I'm going to set the over-under on Nico Horner homers at, I'm going 4.5, and I'm going to take the over. I believe in you, Nico. He's going to get on a hot streak. That weather's kicking up now. You get a few windy days at Wrigley, put it in the basket. It'll be all right. But even without that, he's still killing it. All right, speaking of killing it, we have a Cal Raleigh question. What would it take for him to win the MVP? Judge is a much more well-rounded hitter, but Raleigh does more defensively for his team than any other player. That's according to Wande. So you are right that catcher is more important than right field. There's no question about that. So what would he have to do? He's on pace for over 60 homers still, I believe. And I think the record, we talked about this earlier in the week, the record for home runs by a catcher was Salvador Perez at 48, right? A few years ago, I think. He would probably have to get 10 more than that. Aaron Judge would have to come back in batting average and not hit like 65 homers or 60 homers. That's my guess. Because now it's so ingrained in our brain that Aaron Judge is like legitimately in the discussion of best hitter of the last 30 years, right? I mean, you're not going to make that statement. People aren't going to be like, what are you talking about? Like that, like we're here now. No joke. We're here. And sure, some people will say, I think I've even said it like, okay, hold on. Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols, like he's right there with all this stuff. And it's just, I know Dan Rourke's getting in there better, way better, all that stuff. But we've thrown the stats up there. I get it. I understand all that stuff. So my point is, let's get back to the question, which is what would Cal Raleigh have to do? I think that the Mariners have to win the division. Okay. I think that's number one. I think he's got to get over 50 homers and set a record himself. And I think that his batting average has got to be decent. His OPS has got to be 1,000-ish. And the pitching staff has got to help him out. Meaning, like, we look at that Seattle staff and we're like, well, of course Cal Raleigh's played a role in it. Now, obviously, WAR calculates that in terms of catchers. But I talked about this earlier in the week. That Tim McCarver always told me that look at catchers' hands at the end of a season as opposed to the beginning of it. Some of them can barely hold the bat. That WAR does not factor that part about how much their hands hurt from the full season's worth of taking foul balls off of them, whether it's your glove hand or your other hand. They just hurt like hell. And so your numbers in the second half for a catcher go. Adley Rutschman last year, horrible. I'm not saying it was because of his hands, but man, the wear and tear on your body at that position, how can you sustain a 1. OPS and go have 50 home? There's a reason catchers have never done it before. So that's the minimum. And even if that happens, I'm not so sure that it doesn't end up in Aaron Judge's hands again. I think we'd really have to look at it, though, man. I mean, if a catcher has 50-plus homers, a 1. And we know he's as good a defensive catcher as Cal Raleigh is, and you win the division, I mean, then if you don't, then Aaron Judge just had one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen, I would say. So, Wande, that's your recipe. We'll keep our eye on it. Put it in the oven, bake it at 400, 45 minutes. Take it out, stick some toothpicks in it. If it's a little gooey in the middle. Oh, you didn't ask about how you make certain kind of brownies. Okay, that's fine. What do we got next? This is from Wyatt. If you could have dinner with any baseball icons, living or dead, who would they be? I'm envisioning a table of 4. Yourself, 1 player, 1 manager, 1 announcer. Okay, I dug this question. I love this one. I think it's always fun. The table of 4. I'm going to work kind of backward here since I'm an announcer. And I'm going to go with the late, great, legendary Ernie Harwell of the Detroit Tigers. Couple of reasons. Number one, his voice was iconic. I had a chance to meet him one time. It was I want to say it was the summer of 91 when I was an intern for radio station in Cleveland. And before the game, I was watching batting practice on the field. And I was looking over at the cage, and there he was with his little tape recorder in his hand. And he's not a large man. And he looks over at me and he starts walking to me. And he goes, "Hello, son." I was like, "Mr. Harwell, how are you? My name is Chris Rose, and I want to do what you're doing." He goes, "That is fantastic to hear, son." I'm doing a horrible disservice by even speaking in that tone with him. But the point is that he encouraged me. Remember a few minutes ago, I talked to you about wanting to encourage people? He could have just been like, "Oh, that's nice." He could have been like, "That's wonderful to hear. I wish you luck, and I hope that you're able to do that." Like, this is one of the great legends. This is how legendary this man was. He was with the Tigers for decades, right? Called their last World Series victory in 1984. And Bo Schembechler, the legendary Michigan football coach, became the president of the team in the early 90s and dismissed Ernie Harwell. He said, we gotta freshen it up a little bit. New bosses, this is what they do. There was a huge uproar. And then a couple years later, Mike Ilitch bought the team. And the first thing he did, "Mr. Harwell, you've got to come back here." And so he came back. That's how bad a baller this guy was. Awesome. So I just always will remember that moment with him. And what an honor it was just to share a field. Manager for me is Tito, because I want to laugh all night long and listen to his stories. Nobody's a better storyteller in this sport. Nobody's funnier than Terry Francona. The player for me is dipping back into my childhood. Most of you are not going to know the name Joe Charbonneau. Joe Charbonneau was a 1980 AL Rookie of the Year. He played about 3 seasons in Cleveland. His rookie year, I think he hit .289 with 23 homers and OPS in the mid-8s, and looked like he was well on his way to an amazing, amazing career. Now in Cleveland, I just told you this. We didn't have good teams when I was growing up. Crappy teams. So when we had a young rising star, he was probably 24 the year he won Rookie of the Year. What we did in Cleveland in the 80s, we made famous songs about these people who were the icons of our city. Listen to this. Keep going. Very 80s catchy. There's more, though. Okay. Well, you can keep it going, Dan. Whatever. So that was that. He ended up, I think, injuring his back and playing a middling couple of years. There he is. There's Joe Charbonneau. Look at that. I don't think that's a perm, but that's frothy lettuce he's got working. The other thing about him was he was truly a character. Rumor was he would open beer bottles with his eyelids. So he would stick the beer bottle, open it up. And another rumor was that he shaved a tattoo off of his body with a razor blade. Don't know if that one's true. I don't suggest it. Yeah. So do you think he used both his eyes to open the beer bottles to numb himself when he shaved off the tattoo with a razor blade? Woo! Joe, you're joining the party of 4. That would be fantastic. So this is the key. Once again, y'all got to answer questions too down in the comments section today. Don't be shy. Let us know who your table of 4 is. Give me a line as to why. It's not a homework assignment. It's just contributing to the community. We all have to do our part. And now I hope that your life is fulfilled because you heard, "Go, Joe Charbonneau." You might have to have that on standby a little bit later. All right. We'll move on. Another question. These are great. Let's keep going. Syracuse Beast 5. Okay. This is going to perk up the years of our young intern Sawyer, who just graduated from Syracuse. What is your favorite home run call of all time that isn't one of the more recognized ones? All right, so I like it when the pressure is on. I like it when it means something. Let's listen.
The 1-0, swinging a fly ball, left field, it's deep, it's way back! The Tigers are going to the World Series! 3-run walk-off home run! Oh man! Odojia's around third! He's into a box seat at home! The Tigers have beat the A's 6-3, completed a 4-game sweep in one of the greatest turnarounds in baseball history.
Okay, I believe that's Dan Dickerson, if I'm not mistaken, who still does the Tigers radio. That is a phenomenal call. If you heard the end of it, the Tigers, they were gonna win the series. They were up 3-0. But the fact that they get a walk-off home run to get to the World Series for the first time since 1984, so that's 22 years. But more importantly, 2 years after they almost set the single-season record for most losses in a season. And then to turn it around under the leadership of Jim Leyland and to have that moment, and he described it perfectly. Like, whoa, baby, that is great. That is so good. That's wonderful. I tip my cap to Dan on that one. A lot of Tigers announcer talk today, and they're an arch rival of mine. But you gotta respect it. Respect the game. Respect the craft. That was a fun one. This is obviously an easy one for you to comment on. So make sure you do in the comment section about your favorite underrated home run call if you want to use it. All right, this one from Robert. 7-year-old son Judah is in love with baseball, and because of that, we get to share some great moments together at the ballpark. What's your favorite memory you've shared at a ballpark with your boy? Love the show, and if I ever see you at a bar, you'll get a drink on me. P.S. Being a dad is the best. Okay, Robert, I think you win question of the day. I think you do, because you know Rose is a big softie. I might seem like the grumpy old dude occasionally, but I'm really not. I am an emotional wreck. But I mean, I say that in a positive sense for the most part. I'm going to put a plural on the boy because I have boys. Josh is 24. Brady is 19. Them, along with Michelle, mean everything to me. We have experienced a ton of great things at the ballpark, whether it's watching games. We've talked about the Game 7 of the 2016 World Series, which even though the ending was not perfect, being there for the comeback and the Rajay Davis homer and stuff like that is remarkable. I would say when I took the boys to spring training one year, the Indians were nice enough to let us go to the backfield where the big leaguers were taking batting practice. And so Josh and Brady brought their mitts. Josh is probably at that point 16. Brady, who was a good ball player, was 11, maybe? Something like that, I'm guessing. So they both have their mitts, and we're out there in the outfield shagging. We're hanging out with Kipnis, Bradley Zimmer, Greg Allen was out there. Los was still on the team, I believe. But, a bunch of big guys were out there. And my sons get to go shag during BP. Like, it was the coolest thing. And I remember Josh was tall at that point. He was probably 6'2" or whatever. So he was running around and catching a few fly balls. And young Brady, who was a good player, as I mentioned, like an all-star in his little league, he is fired up. He is pissed off because nobody's hitting the ball to him. I was like, dude, it's batting practice. Like, if it happens, it happens. So Kipnis, he was hanging around Kipnis the whole time. It's Kipnis's turn. So he runs in and he goes, Kip, hit me a ball. And he's like, yeah, I will. First one, what happens? Kipnis steps up there, hits a missile. And we're in the outfield, and I'm not close to Brady. And I was like, oh my God, if he misses this, His mom is going to crush me. Well, he lays out and catches the ball. All the players are like, yeah. And he goes, Kip, you did it. You hit me the ball. And I was like, that stuff is cool. I will say this. There are many wonderful things about this business. Getting to take my family to certain things and have them experience what they have is far and away the best, most rewarding part of this business. It's not close because at the end of the day, I've been fortunate enough to have a nice living in this business, okay? And we have everything that we need. We're very thankful for that. But those memories are irreplaceable. And at the end of the day, whenever that is, when it's time to go, and Josh is hopefully in his 60s and Brady's in his late 50s, because by then I'll be drooling in my 90s and we'll be all right. We'll be okay. I'll be like, y'all remember the time you got this shag BP for the Indians? Like, we're not going to be like, man, I love that sweater. I really thought that was great. That's not going to be it. It's these times. I love that about it. So, Robert, thank you for the question. I appreciate you allowing me to share that because that's some cool stuff. I love that. All right. This is a tough one. As a Rockies fan, I got two questions. How disappointing is it for baseball MLB to have two historically bad seasons in a row with the White Sox and now the Rockies? Second part is, what's your opinion on team hopping for the season when your squad is historically bad? This is another great question. First of all, it's embarrassing for the sport that we have the possibility of setting the record in back-to-back seasons. I mean, we went from 1962 until 2024. That's a long time. Now, Tigers of 04, y'all tried to hop on that train, but at the last minute, turn it around. Way to go. Last year we laughed. We were like, man, the White Sox stink. This is incredible. And now this year we're all looking at the Rockies like, this can't be. No. What are we doing? It's terrible for the sport. And there's a lot wrong with it. Spending money on good players is not a guarantee that you're going to win the World Series. But it sure as hell gives you hope and a lot better chances. And if you're not going to do it and you're going to be complaining about what other franchises are doing and how they're spending their money, that's not a good way to business. Particularly a business where you rely on the heart and soul of people to spend their hard-earned money. I tell you all this all the time. As an owner of a major league franchise, you have a responsibility to a community that you're in. Because a lot of these businesses, we don't give a shit. Like Target, great business. I don't set my Saturdays and Sundays cheering for them unveiling a cool new product in aisle 6. I don't care about that. But I'll tell you this, when it's opening day in Colorado, I'm clearing my schedule. But I don't want that to be the highlight of my season. So you owe it to them. It's a bad look on franchises. It's a horrible look for the sport and for upper management to say, well, that's just the way the sport goes. No. We know. Just don't lie to us. We know who's trying and who's not. And you can't expect people to show up. I mean, look at some of the crowds we saw in Miami and Colorado. Can't blame people. And it's not the players' fault. I mean, yeah, I wish they were better. They're getting their opportunity. So, I don't know. I want to tell you something real quick. You're probably wondering about this hat. Because I'll get to the team hopping in a second. I don't want to leave that question. I just noticed that I don't think I told anybody about this hat. Because you're probably wondering. Hub City Spartan Burgers. That is a team in Spartanburg, South Carolina, the high A affiliate of the Texas Rangers. That's pretty awesome. I'll send out a picture on social media. That jumped into my brain. I know I'm a little all over the place, but that's all right. Back to the question, opinion on team hopping. Here's what I would say. I would say wait for the playoffs and then pick a team to root for. That's how I would do it. In Cleveland, The 80s and early 90s were no good, so I had to pick some team. I remember rooting for the Twins in 87 because I thought it would be a cool story. So that's what I would do. I would wait. If you can be patient, just watch people that you like watching. That's how I would suggest watching the rest of the regular season. But as far as then hopping on, I'd hop on in October. And if you find a story or a player or a team that you think is you can identify with, go for it and feel good about them. And then when somebody says, well, how long have you been a fan? You'd be like, 3 weeks. Awesome. Really emotionally invested. All right. Got a few more and then we're going to get out of here. We all know baseball players are superstitious bunch, but as baseball commentator, viewer, enjoyer, do you have any superstitions you usually follow when you're watching your beloved Cleveland team? Some that maybe you stuck on good runs. And this is from Chris. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I sit in certain areas. Like last year when the Guardians were on their playoff run, there were certain seats we had to sit in, and then they'd lose a game and we're like, well, what do we do now? We're like, well, we change it up. Of course, because that's going to do it. We're all idiots like that, but we do it. Now, I don't know if you all remember, but last year, so the Guardians when they had a bye, they were the 2 seed. They had a bye. Then they beat Detroit in that awesome 5-game series, Lane Thomas with the grand slam. And then when we got to the Yankee series, it coincided with my duty to call an NFL game in London. My boys are like, what are you doing? I was like, it's called work. I said, look up. And I said, what do you see? I said, I see a roof. I was like, yeah, if you want that shit to still be over, it's not going to work. Sorry. So I had to go do that. I did not sleep on the flight over from LA to London. I got there. I fell asleep. So my days and nights were all screwed up. So the ALCS was on at like 3 a.m. London time. And I got to call a football game in a couple days, which can be a little taxing. So you want to have proper rest. My body's all screwed up, worse than normal. And now I'm watching MacKenzie Noel on my phone at 3:30 a.m. London time while Michelle is sleeping next to me. And of course, I can't even yell. I'm like this. But the superstition then became, occasionally, with the exception of the Noel home run, every time I put the game on my phone, something bad would happen in the series. So when I just watched it on the screen where, it has the field and the dots are moving around and stuff, Cleveland would be doing okay. And I was like, oh, so I guess I can't watch the game. Like, okay, this is insane. First of all, the fact that I'm up at 3:30 in the morning watching this game when I have a football game to call in a few days is probably a little nutty anyway. But now I'm thinking, yeah, I'm affecting the game because if I put it on my screen and watch the video, then we're not going to do well. But as long as it's just boop, 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 it will be fine. So what happens? We get to the Soto at bat. What do? I put it on. How'd that end up for me? Not great. I turned it off after that. And I watched our season die in the palm of my hand. Doot, doot, doot. So that was my superstition, Chris. Whew. Thanks for bringing out some scar tissue for me on that one. That was rough. All right. What else we got here? Okay. Curious how you got into poker commentary gig back in the day. You did some great work on the big game in 2010. Thank you. Okay. Quick story. While I was working on Best Damn Sports Show, period, my boss was George Greenberg, one of my mentors in this business, a wonderful man. He said, we are going to be getting in the poker business. What do you know about poker? I said, it's a card game, George. Other than that, I don't know shit. I have never played a hand in my life. He said, I want you to start calling it. I said, really? He goes, no, I think you're going to be fine. Okay. So I worked with 2 gentlemen, Howard Lederer, who is one of the wonderful poker players of all time, and a guy named Michael Koenig, who was kind of a poker player, but really better known as a poker announcer. And they were both very helpful. The first time, for people that don't know, they shoot a poker tournament, they edit the show. So an hour-long show is 44 minutes of content without the commercials. You voice it over, you sit in a booth, you throw on some headsets, you sit in front of a microphone, and you call the action as though it's live, even though we know what happened. We have scripts that say, okay, here comes the flop. It's ace 7-9. Now Johnny's got 2 pair, whatever it is. And so we just kind of follow the action and we call it, what we see on the screen. It was the hardest thing I had ever done to that point in television. It took 4.5 hours for us to record a voiceover session that lasted 44 minutes of actual show. I called the boss, a guy named John Faratzis, on the drive home. He was the producer of the show. I said, John, I will gladly step aside and not do this if I'm going to slow down the process. He goes, listen, it wasn't that bad. You're going to do fine. Howard Lederer saved my ass. He would sit up with me and walk through. He would explain the rules of poker the way that if I had to explain to you, okay, when a batter steps in, the count is 0-0. But if there are 4 pitches that the batter doesn't swing at that aren't in this fictitious area called the strike zone, they can walk to first base free. Like, that's how he was explaining stuff to me. I said, wait a second, is that a raise? He's like, no, that's a bet. Is that the turn? No, that thing's the flop. So he would sit up with me and do this. Eventually, I got decent at it. And I loved doing it. I really did. I enjoyed, Joe Stapleton was one of my guys. I still keep in touch with him a little bit. We'll text occasionally. He was hilarious. Really, really funny guy. Did a fun game show with Daniel Negreanu. But it was something that I eventually enjoyed. And I enjoyed playing a little bit. Wasn't a very good poker player. Did a little bit of work online. That was fun. But I miss it. I still watch it. Was watching the other night with one of our sons and kind of had a good time with it. But I appreciate the question there. That was cool. All right, what else we got here? Broden? Okay. Should the Phillies sign Kyle Schwarber to an extension long enough for him to retire there? And if they do, will he be remembered more as a Cub or Philly? So he's in his early 30s. I want to say he's 32, and I think as long as he stays healthy, he's going to get a shot at 500 homers. Here's the rub, because you would say, well, why wouldn't Philly? I mean, look what he's doing, and we're just getting into Schwarber's month of June. Bryce Harper's still got a lot of time left on that deal. He's got half of that contract. You're going to have to sit him. He's not going to be able to be on the field every day. So I think you want to start utilizing that DH position. And Trey Turner, too, is going to be, he's going to need some days off eventually. I don't know how many years you would give Schwarber. But I do think that there are some teams that would give him a 3 or 4 year deal as a DH. I mean, look at what he's doing. He's killing it. But I think it would be fun because Philly seems to fit him perfectly. Perfectly. I love seeing him hit shots in right field in that stadium. Awesome. Majestic. He fits it. They win a ring there. Now we're talking about how we see him. I mean, he broke a 108-year curse, dude. He came back from not even playing in the regular season to being a World Series hero. He still goes I talk to Phillies guys. He goes into Chicago, and it's like he's like the king there. So I don't know, man. It's going to take a lot. I think it even takes more than hitting 500 homers as a Philly or his 500th as a Philly to be remembered as he's got to win a ring there. Then the conversation gets interesting. But for now, he's still a Cub, I think. Could be wrong. Dan, is that it? Okay. Y'all did a great job. I know we ran long. I'm sorry. I hope you had as much fun as I did. This stuff was great. If you want to keep doing it, let me know. If you're tired and bored of it, I'm not going to take it personally because sometimes only one of us can make it. I think Plouffe would be great at this too if he wants to do that. But I want to thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time. Put your comments in there. Friday, we're back to our regularly scheduled programming, and we cannot wait. So for our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, our awesome intern, Sawyer, You get the day off on a Thursday. Take the rest of the day, brother. I am Chris Rose. We will see you Friday with a 2-person edition of Baseball Today.